This ain't no audiobook. This ain't a radio play. This is a Happy Cloud AudioToon. It's that time again for the Further Adventures of Rune, Return of the Miggins, brought to you by Happy Cloud Media and Chrome Toothpaste. Chapter 35, The Twilight of the Soul. Unbeknownst to either party, the field upon which they took their rest was known, in Old Scooberish, as Hanamaran, roughly translated as the Twilight of the Soul, a popular site for reflection among the warlords of Fleen's past, and also necking teenagers. Just as those maniacs of old, but for reasons wholly different from that of the teenagers, Rune found himself restless in anticipation of battle. Dawn would soon be upon them. Outside his tent the fire burned, and beside it he found the Gax toiling away at his memoirs. Gax, where are we now? The Gax set down his pad and ballpoint quill and pondered a moment, his clawed foot hand stroking the entirety of his chin. By now, I'd say we're about to enter the belly of the beast. I counted the anger hold as the belly of the beast. What comes next? Well, then we can start skipping ahead towards a final confrontation. But not without a trial. Wouldn't be a journey if it was easy. So if all goes as planned, Jado gets us through the front gates, confronts Grimfoil or whoever. He trailed off, thinking of the usual narrative progression. The four of us battle individual bosses until either I pursue or am pursued by the Necromancer's forces, in which case we fight through the keep, into the lower passages, and into the Carthage labyrinth. You with me so far? Sounds about right. And then the battle climaxes at the end of the labyrinth, and on the lattice plains, where I am either triumphant and destroy this Necromancer, or the both of us die in noble sacrifice. Well, I doubt it'll come to that. Depends. If this Necromancer is actually Ming Mumble, like my money is on, then that's the logical outcome, a final confrontation of my past. If not, and this Necromancer is Grimfoil, or worse, some entirely different schmookok, then this is just the first confrontation, and I'm gonna have to follow him to some other remote location. The Gax shifted in his seat. That's a bridge we'll have to burn once we get to it. Besides, my money is on Mingaling being dead. Ming Mumble. And then the second confrontation comes along, and that's always followed by the torture and answer session, and then the first downfall. Then we regroup at the third confrontation, in which case I'll either triumph or sacrifice. I don't want to go through this. Boss, such negativity. Rune wasn't listening, lost in his own structure. Okay, well, the Vernica and the lands are protected, the staff will be provided for, you included. Well, that's sweet of you, boss, but without the Bernie wood, I guess I'm as vulnerable as any aging protagonist. He didn't mention his reticence towards Circe. There was only so much soul-bearing his gag reflex could take. Yeah, but boss, so either this is the final confrontation and I have a long day ahead of me, or this is the first confrontation and I have a long fleen ahead of me. Maybe more, maybe decafleens. Never-ending cycle of side quests and challenges and map points and boss fights. Shadow gives us a fast travel upgrade. The great gray wolf sat down and glared into the fire. Dozens of people killed, maybe hundreds. I don't trust this whoever Lord Morphin, and I don't trust that priest. You don't like Father Dawn? Asked the Gax, who frowned and flipped through his sheaf of notepaper. Could have told me that earlier. I have this whole passage where you're like on the pro side. Still not listening, Rune poked at the fire with a long stick, stirring the embers, sending them drifting upwards like burning memories. Battle, hardship, cliffhangers, suspense. Rune the Grey shook his head and looked up at his biographer and Batman. The firelight in his eyes gave his words a heated intensity. Gax, it's time for a change in narrative. The Gax wasn't sure what that meant, but he was certain he'd need more paper. Aside, flashback to bad news. Have you ever found a non-violent solution to a problem? Benny had asked him. Of course he had. Fighting is fun on a Saturday night, but tough to follow on a Nun day. A large part of being a successful mercenary, and the key to becoming an elderly one, was in being smarter than your opponent. Big boss enemies come and go, but the average antagonist Rune found was an idiot, and outwitting an idiot was rarely a challenge. On the other hand, outsmarting your opponent sometimes required rendering them murdered one way or another just to lessen the chances of retaliation. Was violence by your own hand better or worse than manipulating others to violence? An interesting ethical dilemma, if he cared about such things. To be or not to be, or to be Blurgsny? What was the question again? After his expulsion from Dismadonna, Rune found mortal life lacking, contrary to Circe's accusation, in those early fleens he'd had quite the death wish, and his desire to be back in the arms of his underworld goddess had been a burning thirst. It's what led him on his journey into the uncanny valley, and the mayhem he took part in there, which, "Will you knock that off?" Rune said to the great narrator. The great narrator ignored the desires of the main character and continued exposing his darkest secrets to the casual listener. During those fleens, Rune kicked around Thessily as both sellsword and slinger, wandering from this side quest to that without a main mission to speak of. Seriously, a healthy galoot beneath him, he partnered up for a time with the Pendragon gang. Dutch Pendragon, Arthur Morgan Le Fay, she was fun, Dave Rutabaga and his partner, Charlotte Webb, Lucas Worm, he rode a mammoth for some reason, Doc Arbor Day, others came and went. The gang had just pulled off a more or less successful train job and had scattered to lay low for a while. Rune split off and wound up in the town of Bad News. Your mother was bad news. The Bologna mining settlement had grown into quite the thriving metropolitan hotspot in just under 2 fleens. With success came the outlaws, funded by the robber barons. Bad News was under threat by a big city politician, Fade Hungerdunger, nephew of despotic Baron Vladimir Hungerdunger of Slidersham, who'd been throwing around sleeves and ballyhoos like a tornado in a trailer park. If Fade couldn't buy it, he was determined to take the town by force. Of course, Rune knew none of this. He'd ridden his galoot into town one morning and spent the rest of the day in the Two Yuck Saloon, seeking the bottom of the famous Bottomless Margarita, which was also the name of the owner. Both were as advertised. He had reached the stage known well to experienced drinkers as 3 of everything, when a trio of pink, humanish men in sharp suits floated over to his table. They all wore the same mustache, which is to say, they each had their own mustache, but it was similar. Never mind, you'll get it. "Sir, my name is Hugh W. Fitzhugh," said the 3 businessmen, pulling out 3 chairs, which Rune found 4 times as presumptuous, but his math may have been off. "May I sit?" "Simon says." The 3 men named Hugh W. Fitzhugh sat down. "Sir, I represent the good people of Bad News. Do you also speak for the bad people of Good News?" "I do not. Sir, allow me to get right to the point. While you are new in our fair town, your reputation precedes you." "That's what reputations do." "Yes, indeed." The 3 Fitzhughs spoke in a single voice for some time, puffing about the town's history, its integrity, and its up-and-coming carriage dealership and soft ice creameries. Rune only listened to every 3rd word or so. Every bit of Thessaly was up and coming. Every town had a rich and colorful history, as agreed upon in brochures and press kits. "What do you 2 huge film goos want?" "Well, that is, I have a proposition for you on behalf of the fine people of Bad News." Rune waited. He propped his chin upon his fist. It took 3 tries, but he got there in the end. "Well, sir, it's shameful, but Fade Hungerdunger, politician and carpetbagger, plans to take our town by force. He's hired 5 slingers, dangerous killers, sir, and they're coming by the 18 o'clock train." "Okay." "Well, sir, a collection was taken, and we'd like to hire your protection." From 5 dangerous stuffs. "Yes, sir," said the 3 Fitzhughs. Wait, there were only 2 of them now. Rune would have to order a top-off for his ale. The now 2 Fitzhughs dropped a heavy leather pouch upon the table. "Now, it's not a fortune, and we intend no insult, but it's all we have." Rune belched. His vision was still swimming about. He signaled 2 barmaids to bring him more Margarita, Margaret Taylor. That. How many people live in the town?" The Fitzhughs seemed surprised. "Well, sir, we're proud to say our population grows by the fleek. Today we can boast over 7,000 citizens within our expanding boundaries." "Any of them have guns?" "Of course, sir. We believe in the right to self-defense in Bad News." Rune nodded. His stomach begged him to stop. "Hey, go back to all the peoples that gave me the money," Rune said, dragging the pouch to his glass so he could better protect both. And tell them to go home, get her guns, and go to the train station." "What time?" 18 o'clock. Go there at 17:90. And when the train finally comes at 19:22, let's be fair." Rune's drunken stare forced the Fitzhughs to nod in shameful agreement. "When the train arrives and your 5 dangers was to step out," he pointed at them. "Shoot 'em." "Why, sir, that would be murder." "That's okay when I do it." The Fitzhughs sputtered and had no real answer. "Defend your town, Fitzboos. I don't live here." The Fitzhughs continued to fume and defend the character of the decent people of Bad News, but Rune's refill arrived and he'd ceased listening. Only when the Fitzhughs attempted to take the money back did Rune acknowledge their presence, and then 2 Fitzhughs retreated, moneyless, and each missing a thumb. The last thing Rune remembered, just before the floor and the ceiling switched places, was that a couple dozen good people of Bad News revenues had collectively gone to the train station at 1750, and at 1997, when the train arrived, reduced 5 slingers to wet splots on the platform. Rune had killed no one, had actually been paid to kill no one. Yet now, 5 personages were dead. So the question was, as far as Benny and non-violent solutions went, did that count? Thus concludes this episode of the Further Adventures of Rune. Tune in next week via your favorite audio delivery system. Don't forget, full episodes and super mega chunks are available on Patreon. But you knew that already.